Seasonal trends, weather, days on the market, average home prices, market competitiveness. All of this affects how easy it is and how much it's going to cost you to sell your house. Data and experience consistently show there are best months and worst months to sell your house. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about what does best and worst mean, how is it going to operate, where is the highest profits analytically. Sell anywhere from May to June and you avoid selling in December and January. Whether you're a homeowner, a real estate agent, or just a representative for an investor, knowing when to hit the market is going to be vital for you to be able to close the best deal. We're going to talk about some highlights of that today. We're going to talk about your most profitable months, your least profitable months, home sales data by the months, pros and cons of selling during each season, and then we're going to put it all together for you in a nice, easy graphic for everybody to digest. Important note, the statistics that I'm going to use as my historical support for this are all based on nationwide surveys. These are not just Florida centric. I will caveat with everything I'm talking about on the highest levels of good are magnified in Florida. We have a very active market, even in its what would they consider their slowest times, right? What you're talking about is driving over the speed limit versus driving on the Autobahn. It's a different experience, but when you're talking about Florida, it's fast and furious no matter when you're marketing your property. It's a good place to be a realtor. It's a better place to have a brokerage. So allowing homeowners to sell their properties for the highest prices, we need to understand the timing, the data that shows the most profitable and the quickest sales. And I get this question a lot. So I want to make sure that we understand that when I'm talking about a United States entirety market, the collateral that I'm utilizing is going to be a little different from state to state to state. So pretty consistent trends. Competition's going to get tough during certain periods, but houses still sell quickly in Florida because of the increased demand. So we're going to walk through those. Most profitable months to sell a house, according to analytics, May and June. I personally recommend selling a house anywhere between April and October. The buyer demand outpaces the number of homes that are traditionally available for sale, allowing the homeowners to sell their properties for the highest prices possible. The data consistently shows, and I'm talking about 10 years worth of data, even through the COVID months when the market was at its hottest in the last decade, still followed an increased trend during these months. Homes typically sold for more than listing price, and the median days on the market was much lower, so the house is selling faster. Very consistent, so competition tends to be tougher during that period. However, houses are still selling quickly during that time because of the increased demand. Obviously, some locations are more heavily impacted by seasonal trends. In that case, you're going to break down into the NAR data that shows the southern states, which is where we are, the southeastern region, are more prone to fluctuation, either because of weather condition or tourism influxes. Additional factors that you want to consider is the influential buyer demand in local markets, and that's going to be affected by the current interest rates, interstate migration, unemployment rates, income levels, and market conditions. There is a great article out there that states with the best and worst housing markets. You should read that. You should learn more. So let's dive into my first point of why May and June would be the most profitable months to sell a house. The end of spring marks what we consider the spring swing. It's a good time for home buyers to be out and about, which makes it a prime time to look for a home. Because of this trend, the increased demand, the market sees bidding wars more often than not. This further fuels how quickly the turnaround of properties hit and sell off of the market. It means high demand, which means higher prices. It means more homes are sold above the traditional asking price, and it means lower medium days on the market. Medium sales price, by the way, of existing homes currently is about 422,000 nationally, considerably higher than that in the state of Florida. The rule in Florida is pretty simple. The farther you get away from the water, the less expensive and less total cost of ownership you're dealing with, simply because of storms, hurricanes, value proposition that you're closer to access to the beaches, and you got scenarios inner portions of the state where there are less insurances and costs again for owning the property. Homes sold above list price certainly have gone down considerably, but we're still seeing, as of May of this year, 31% of the homes that were listed still sold for over their list price. So when you're listening to the media rampage against interest rates, I still need to advise you that being a seller in this market is still a powerful place to be. However, the market itself is still more level. You need to understand that you're going to have to come to the table with a cooperative mindset to get the right deal. Buyers are asking you for more because they know the statistics show that your home's going to be on the market longer. And depending on your story as a seller, that's what sets the pace on whether or not you're willing to accept the offer that's coming in, or whether you want to challenge the offer and go back and forth. My personal pricing strategies are, if I am on the listing side, price it right the first time. You are almost guaranteed that as long as the property is represented well inside and out, you're not going to have a problem selling the property within the average time on market. If you're on the buyer side, you need to come to the table understanding that you're typically not going to get exactly what you're asking for. However, don't be afraid to ask. Be open to negotiation, but do your research and know if a market price on a property is relevant. If that's priced appropriately, go in without an insulting attitude. Don't try the low ball play just because you think you can and maybe you'll get lucky. This is not Vegas. You will insult the dealer and he will walk away from the table without even responding to your offer. I'll tell you, median days on the market for the last 3 years have continued to climb. But when I say continue to climb, I'm talking about at the height of our market, it was in 3 years ago in 2022, the slowest it had been. The average days on market was like 50 days. Now it's currently around 56, 57 days. So we're talking about an additional week in the grand scheme of things. Take that additional week on the law of averages and create a good relationship between the buyer and seller. Agents, I'm looking at you. If you go into these negotiations half cocked with all of this data that I'm giving you today, expecting that you're going to take advantage of the buyer or the seller, shame on you. You should get out of the industry. Quite honestly, so many agents have misrepresented the practice of real estate in the last 5 years. And obviously, with all of the lawsuits, it has drawn that to the surface. We have the lowest trust rating in the history of our industry now because of what the media has exposed and what agents have tried to get away with over the years. I am a huge proponent of transparency. And in our brokerage, if you're not selling the truth and you can't support it by numbers, my agents are not allowed to allow those words to come out of their mouths. So I want to make absolutely sure when they're talking, it's talking in honesty, it's talking in transparency, they're following all of the rules, and they are administering a good, clean environment for collaboration and for negotiation between both the buyers and the seller side. And buyers, sellers, understand something. Your agent is your plug-in to the success of the transaction. If your agent's advising you and you are simply ignoring it just so that you can pretend you know more than them, you're making a fatal mistake. It's like getting on a roller coaster with the engineer and deciding that you knew when the track should accelerate versus decelerate. So, highest home prices. Let's get back to point. June, absolute best month to sell a house. Statistically, if you were looking for the highest profit from a sale, which means, kids, you had to have had your house on the market before the June timeframe. That doesn't mean you put it on the market in June, it sells in June. If the average time to a sale is almost 60 days, 2 months prior, in the spring swing, you needed to have started putting your house on the market and preparing it for negotiations. That's going to increase the aperture so that when people are ready to contract and buy it 2 months later, you're good to go. And you're ahead of the people that waited to the last minute and got bad advisement. High demand and lower inventory is always going to be a factor that's going to drive up housing prices. This is your basic economic 101. Supply and demand drives the price, period. I don't care about anything else. You can bring me all of the Fed's reports that you want. You can give me all of the data that shows trending perfectly, median sales prices, sharp declines towards January. That's fantastic. But if you don't have the right people at the steering wheel, they're not even going to understand how to get you the maximum price for your home and negotiate perfectly on your listing benefit. Sales prices have picked up and will continue to pick up as the market strengthens. Don't pay attention to the jobs report thinking it's going to affect your home price. Pay attention to the jobs report because it's going to affect the federal interest rates, which will eventually trickle into the mortgage rates. There is no way that you're going to show me any data that says the Fed's dropped it by 2% today and the mortgage market followed quickly in suit by a 2% drop on my offered mortgage interest. It simply doesn't happen. That's not the way it works. The mortgage interest companies decide what they believe the market's going to do way in advance. Think Vegas. They're playing the odds. And if they want more customers, they're going to drop their rates earlier in prediction of what the Fed's going to do so that they get more customers and more comfortability in the market so that when it actually does drop, it increases their margins naturally so they don't have to do something outside of the norm to get business. So, some good news for you sellers. I will say that according to the latest data from not only Zillow, not only Redfin, but also Realtor.com, the percentage of homes sold above list price has currently peaked. It's about 35%. While the percentage is lowering month over month, it's a slow trend. And you're talking about a difference between 35% and 31%. That is still very healthy numbers. That means that the 30% of the sellers that are on the market are being very conservative, hoping that because their home's got a better value, they can maybe create some competition for their pricing and give their real estate agent more of an opportunity to negotiate more in their favor. And remember, kids, if you're selling a home for $300,000 and you're giving away 5% in concessions, you didn't sell the home for $300,000. You're not fooling anybody. All you're doing is pacing the market. Those of us that know our salt, we know how to get in there and dive into that. And unfortunately, a lot of the appraisers that are working for us today don't. They're not doing the proper amount of research. They're simply using the sold rates in the community for the closest comps. And if that's what you're dealing with on the realtor side, that is hugely beneficial to the sellers, not so smart for you buyers. So buyers agents, I need you to step into the mud a little bit, figure out what those numbers really mean so that when you're presenting the comps back to the seller who pretends to be insulted by what looks like a lowball offer or way too many concessions on your contract, be able to explain yourself. It should never be, this is what my client wants to offer, or seller listing agents, this is what my client wanted to put it on the market for. You better be able to justify it. Honestly, in the past 5 years, the percentage of homes being sold above listing price, again, peaks between May and June. It's a good idea to have your home under contract during this time span. So, moving on to the next point, we're talking about lowest median days on the market. the least profitable months to sell your home are December and January. Only those 2 months. I wouldn't say it's the worst period, but statistically, compared with all of the other months of the year, buyer demand is lower, which means there is traditionally an oversupply or an overflow of supply, and this will lead to extended days on the market for most properties, which comes with drops in prices for two reasons. One, young real estate agents are trained to have a conversation early with their sellers. Hey, if we're not seeing the activity we want, we need to talk about a price drop. If we're not seeing the amount of activity on the internet that we want, we need to consider a price drop. And that uncertainty hits usually between 45 and 60 days with our owners. So, what we're not telling our owners is, hey, this is the slowest time of the year, still perfectly fine. Don't take that as a dead stop moment. Slowest time of the year is still pretty damn good, especially in the state of Florida. This is a slower time of the year than the other 10 months that are available to sell the property. You need to know these are some factors. So we need to hold our competitive nature when we're in there and be a little more open to conversation and make sure you're negotiating on what works well for the seller and for the buyer. If you're going to really need to sell it and you need to make sure that you're getting the maximum opportunity to sell the home, then you need to wait till there's more competitiveness in the market. So stay away from December and January if that's what you absolutely have to do. If you've been in your home for 10 years, if you've been in your home for over 7, which is the national average, chances are you have gained a really nice cushion of equity in the home. You've paid down enough of the mortgage and the property value have gone up to a point where it's a nice balance where you've got a lot of wiggle room where you can sell your home, still make great money, and then go and negotiate to the opposite term while you're a buyer now in the same market. And let me give you a little bit of karma. If you were a complete jackass when I was negotiating with you in selling your home, it's coming back to you when you need to go and buy it. The things that you took advantage of for a seller's story in their situation, and then you expected it not to turn around and bite you in the ass when you went to buy a house yourself in a higher interest rate market than when you bought your home 10 years ago, then you're going to get exactly what you deserve. I am imploring you, be as sensitive to the seller and buyer side equally. You need to make absolutely sure you're playing fair baseball. And that means your real estate agent needs to have those same ethics. Given that, again, I would recommend holding off till February if you're not in a hurry. Try to put it on the market at the end of January if you want, so you can get a little bit of that Valentine's Day advertising in. But if you're not in a hurry to sell the property, that's what I would do. Pro tip: it is not impossible to sell during that November, December, January timeline. Not at all. But you're going to need to invest a lot more time and effort. And that means you, real estate agents, too. I suggest exploring a lot of different marketing options, improving your lead generation, really go out and sell to your internal funnel. This is going to help you get as many clients and attention for your seller as possible. And it's going to help you generate a lot more leads into your pipeline for people that are kind of holding back. This is going to give you an opportunity to increase your chances of striking hard and fast when the market lights back up in February. You should also consider attending community events, business gatherings, broadening your reach, and I consider this real estate cleaning period. Get your books in line, get ready for the new year, get your new strategies together, put together some packages prior to you actually investing and listing another house so that you're really charged up and ready to go. And yeah, I'm going to say it. Agents, take some time off for yourself and your family during this time of the year. It's important. Don't miss an opportunity to go show a home, but give yourself the time and the energy to reward yourself for a great 10 months of work ahead of time. I'm not saying stop, but I'm saying clean your car, get it all shined up, get your books ready to go, get your advertising and your marketing together. Truly advertise the hell out of yourself on social media during the holiday months. because there's a lot more people online shopping, which means a lot more opportunity to get you out in front of them inside the internet. On top of that, the average days on market will also go up. So this doesn't just mean longer wait times for you to sell, but it's also going to impact your ability and sellability of a property. Properties are going to that have a longer DOM tend to turn off buyers. Buyers question what's wrong with the house. They build a story. You should just simply pick up the phone and ask the agent, hey, what's going on? Well, it's January, should be their answer. If not, and they give you some long drawn out story about what may be wrong with the house or feedback that they have gotten, then maybe you should be dealing with a more mature agent for the sake of your client's negotiations. Number of homes sold between 2023 and 2025 have also dropped considerably, but again, it's changes in the market. That's not a bad thing. That means that your supply and demand ratios have changed, and you need to understand the math of what's going on with you. That's also why the median sales prices of existing homes have gone up, because you're getting a more quality sale, a slower sales runway, and it means that you're doing better business on purpose. It makes a big difference when you're looking at January of 25 in the United States. The average homes that were sold were 393,000, and now just in May of this year we're already up to 422,000. That means the quality of market, the type of homes that are on sale, the style of homes that are on sale, and these are existing properties. This is not new home builds. That will skew your market entirely. Makes a big change for your client. So, lower home buyer demand. Historically, again, December and January are the slowest months for home sales. So, data collected by Trading Economics is consistently reflective of this. But interestingly enough, the lowest dips in 23, 24, the fall months from October and September, respectively, show that tapering off right before you get to the holiday season. So while December and January are still slow overall, it still shows that factors like high mortgage rates and increased prices can ultimately impact this long-standing trend. Lower home prices. The winter months are typically when the home prices are also the lowest. Apart from the holiday celebrations keeping people too busy to house hunt, the cold weather in a lot of states is going to keep a lot of potential home buyers indoors. And although most of our clientele that are shopping online, the same priceless data that I talked to you above is going to show the lowest median pricing is going to do its biggest drops during that particular time of the year. Picking right back up to the highest median when you want to be able to sell it quickly, fastly. Higher median days on the market. If you want to sell your house fastest, January and February are the worst months to sell your home. With the new year starting, work obligations picks up after the holidays, continuing cold weather in most of the states, there is a lower sense of urgency for people to get out for real estate transactions. This is going to result in that longer time on the market. And again, it's not anomalous. This has been happening for at least 10 years. So anything past that is going to be, for obvious reasons, statistically correct. You just need to make sure that you're watching your long-term data. The above mentioned Redfin stats that I talked about are the easiest for you to pick up as a public anomalous, and it's going to set this and support it for you. 2023 of February had the highest days on the market, while 2024 and 2025 showed January to be the highest at almost 60 days, respectively. Not a bad time period if you understand the timing of when you need to sell your home. Where this becomes a critical period is for your clients that have a need, a very specific need that I have been transferred for my job. I must move immediately. I cannot have this home while I am buying another one in another state, forcing the story behind why they need to sell at a more rapid pace. And sometimes that means you don't have the negotiating runway that you typically would want. So it's going to charge you in your speed and your necessity, meaning you're going to lose some negotiating power because you don't have the additional 30 days to jack around with negotiations. Pros and cons of selling a home in each season. Different months of the year and seasons, winter to summer, often present a less than optimal selling condition. When you are considering selling a property, I need you to keep in mind some of the following general tips. Some pros and cons of selling during all four seasons are there. Let's since we're busy talking about the slowest, let's talk about winter first, December to March. Big pros: there's less competition. Home buyers are motivated to capture tax benefits before buying a home at the end of the year time frame. Buyers are commonly more motivated to cooperate in their negotiation strategy. Cons: selling points are lower. Buyers have delays in getting finance finalized because of vacations, holidays, simply being away from work. The people that they need to get the important paper from at their jobs are also not available. They're on vacations. And then scheduling viewings are always difficult during the holidays, either for you to be able to view the home or for the sellers to be available because they typically have people in town. In Florida, that's a big hook. Springtime. Springtime's you got some great pros. This is the swing. Homes are going to be sold at a higher price. There's more potential buyers in the hunt. The maximum curb appeal with the moderate temperatures. Yards look better. Flowers are out. Trees are blooming. Things are looking good. Less rain. Inclement weather is not a problem. You're not in hurricane season in Florida. These are all things that make a big difference and a big positive swing for you when selling the homes. Cons: high level of competition. That means everybody's out looking for a house during this time. It is the busiest time of the year for new listings. And as there are more options available, buyers can afford to be pickier, which means that agents, you have a responsibility to coach your sellers into making their home at the highest level of curb appeal probable. Not just awesome pictures online, but when someone drives by that property and sees that beautiful Keystone sign sitting out in front of the property, it should also be an attractive home that they actually want to come into. They can see themselves living there and in that community before ever setting the appointment. Let's talk about summertime, June through September. Homes are presented at their best lighting. This is the best time for pictures. If you're going to be marketing a home even towards the end of the year, get your pictures now. This is the time you want to do that. There's a higher number of home buyers on the market here at the summertime because kids are out of school, families are out shopping, vacations for the summertime have kicked back off, and there's plenty of houses to choose from, which means selling prices are also typically a little higher. But the competition still remains high from the swing time. We are in the full arc at this point. Higher temperatures and traveling during this time is a little more complicated. It makes it harder to do. Your out of town buyers are going to pay the highest prices for airline flights out of the rest of the year. These are all things that you need to pay attention to. House showing expenses will be higher. Air conditioners are going to be running, keeping those yards and the sprinklers going. It's all going to drive utilities up. Something that if it's an available home that no one lives in while you're selling it, people are going to be discouraged about consistently keeping the air perfect and keeping the yard perfect. Fall, you can finally get things to slow down a little bit. Less inventory, less competition. Home features are going to show very well. The colorful leaves, the fall decors, the seasonal flowers can enhance some of the home's appearances, but you're going to need to work to add some color yourself. These things aren't going to handle themselves appropriately. Selling points are going to be lower. Home buyers' demand is going to start slowing down, and the holidays during the fall absolutely limits mover availability. So it is very difficult for someone to sell a home and move out of their home during that season. Worse, you're going to get pressures from the buyers who want to move in during the holidays and they want to have the house theirs and settled and have made it their own before families start diving in for the Christmas season. So, what's the best month to sell a house? Statistically, numbers only. Best month to sell a house is June. When buyer demand is at its peak, home prices are at their highest. Sellers should be using this timing to attract as many offers as possible and close better deals. It will be easier for them to sell a house because everyone is having this ease of motion. However, It will still absolutely vary depending on the city, the state, the weather, the market conditions, and how those things happen. Again, these are national stats. In Florida, you couldn't ask for a better example. June, July, August are crushing it. We love this time of the year in Florida. We've got maximum amounts of potential buyers that are in the area. They're all here on vacation anyway. Why shouldn't they check out a couple of houses and enhance their experience by saying, we could move here? Which months sell the most houses? According to the Redfin data, June is also typically the month that has the highest number of houses sold. The number is driven by interest, it's need to close. They want to make sure that they're in the houses before the summer vacations end, and they want to get in place before the school season begins. Which means that you're probably asking me now, as we're coming to the bottom of the hour, is 2026 going to be a good year for me to sell a house? Yes, absolutely. 2026 is going to be a phenomenal year to sell your property. Given the current trends, providing that you have the right strategy and you're listing your house wisely, if you are represented by a strong and seasoned agent or a brand new, very hungry agent that understands what's necessary in the marketing and the strategies that are out there today, as agents, you need to make sure that they're staying informed. They understand what's happening with the interest rates, what's happening with the current administration versus the feds. All of that turmoil is going to create opportunity. Seize it. Regardless of which side of the fence you sit on politically, this is about money and this is about opportunity for your sellers and for your buyers and for you as agents. Because if you don't sell homes, you don't exist as a real estate agent. While you cannot predict whether mortgage rates are going to go down or not, you truly can't. People are always going to need a place to live, and that you can predict. So, agents, focus on the right house for your buyers and let the numbers work themselves. This is about keeping your pipeline full so that regardless of the time of the year, you always have closings, you always have new clients. So if one client's taking 6 months while another client's taking 6 weeks, it balances. Don't struggle, don't stress yourself. Know how to budget correctly and be able to take care of your business while you're taking care of your clients. In closing, if you're looking to sell a property, timing is everything, almost as important as location. The best and worst months to sell a house will depend on all of the seasonal trends that affect home sale prices. If you're going to go by statistics, and we are a numbers firm here at Keystone, it is best to sell a house during late spring to late summer, April to October. You can't beat the game. Hello, baseball. Meanwhile, worst months to sell a house are going to be November through March, during the fall to the winter months. Potential buyers are going to be preoccupied with the holidays, and that is going to affect the timing of your sales. Sellers should expect lower sales prices and higher days on the market during those months. Make sure you're educating and you're building a strategy around the seasonal aspects of your industry. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. We appreciate each and every one of you. And as we are still in a very hot market here in Florida, do great business, do great things, and keep things honest and above bar for all of yourselves and for your clients. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.